I wish I would have known this stuff years and years ago. I would have had so much less pain causing myself and to the people I love. I wanted to, the person that I fell in love with, that's the person I want to see. I don't want it to be forced or manipulated or coerced or anything, because that's not a real relationship. I was attacking the symptoms instead of attacking the core issue. And that changed the whole perspective, that attacking the core issue is working on myself. But if you're going in at full force to be the best version of yourself and fix your marriage and to be happy and wholesome, deal with the insecurities, shame, fear, guilt, or whatever is holding anyone down, there's only one way. The most fascinating thing was how this helped me. It's in a very simple things, explained in a very simple way, which is mind-blowing.
I'm here with Chaim, and Chaim is going to share a little bit about his journey, both in terms of personal transformation, his efforts towards marriage transformation. Chaim is very much in the middle of this process. I appreciate you taking the time to share with guys, pull the curtain away, and share what is actually going on in your journey, in your marriage, and sharing what you hope other guys get in terms of the message you want them to have, the guidance you want them to have, the help, the clarity at earlier stages in the marriage. And, I'm going to give it to you, Chaim, for you to riff on this as much as you want. I'm excited for people to hear you share your journey.
So when I came to this program, I wasn't in a very bad place. I was very broken. I was very depressed, in a very dark place in my mind and with my emotions. What I found fascinating about it was it really starts with baby steps. I wish I would have known this stuff years and years ago. I would have had so much less pain causing myself and to the people I love, which I didn't realize what was going on. And the beauty about the program is I didn't realize even how an amazing transformation it would be. Initially it's just, coming in, watching, learning, studying, growing, and then realizing that a lot of the pain that I was in, I was causing to myself, right? And just by working on myself and like what in Jewish world is avodah, I never really realized what that was, that you can grow out of these cycles, these rhythms that are hurting me. I was in this box in my head and didn't feel like I deserved a better relationship. I didn't believe that I can change it. I thought that just by doing more and giving more and breaking myself more and more and more, that's how I'm going to turn this around. Einstein says insanity is when you keep doing the same thing over and over again and not realizing that the result isn't changing. So I just thought, I'm still not doing enough. I have to do this more and I have to make more money and I have to get better this and a better and do this and do that. And I didn't realize that all the work I had to do was really inside. I had to look into a mirror and just work on myself. And, going into this program and seeing that was a big aspect, it's really pulled me out of such darkness that I didn't think was rational. And I went to therapy for a year before this program. And it was helping me realize, okay, there were issues, there were traumas, it was this, that was that. And that was in the mindset of blaming everyone around me, instead of looking in the mirror and saying, okay, these are the cards I was dealt with. And then I realized the fascinating thing, the difference between like going to therapy, because like in therapy, you're going back and saying, this was bad, that was bad, this wasn't good, this could have been this is where I was hurt, this is where I was traumatized. Where coaching is like, okay, this is the cards you dealt with. This is what God gave you, and you're super unique. Now, what do you do with this going forward? How do you climb out of here? You climbed into this hole. How do you climb out of it? Right? And this whole journey has been just an amazing, life-changing thing. It's helped me in relationships with people, with friends, with work, with thinking, with just being myself, more comfortable being me. And it's been a fascinating transformation. I'm still in the middle and I'm going on this, every day growing and changing. It's a very difficult thing. Like this is not for the weak of heart. These are people like, if you want to really grow and you want to really achieve the best version of yourself and truly find inner peace and happiness, this is the place to go.
Can we go back in time a little bit? Because you shared a lot about what is going on right now in the program, in Amazing Marriage Fast Track. A lot of the guys watching this are in a stage where they're in pain, but they're not really sure what's going on, which I think is very similar to what you went through. Can you talk a little bit about what was the pain? You said, I was in pain, I was in a dark place. What was going on?
Well, that was very dark times. So then I felt my life falling apart. Everything that I thought was my reality, everything, I was kind of realizing that, I was working so hard to make my relationship work and to make everyone around me happy. And inside I was terribly miserable and empty. I was completely lost because I thought that I was doing all this and I was going somewhere and I was building and I was growing and I was trying and I was really putting in a tremendous amount of effort, and it all wasn't working. Right. And that was like the darkness when you see like you're working, trying and doing and giving and everything you're trying to do, you're completely lost. And I didn't know what to do. And that's when I started trying to look online, and that's how I was able to find your videos. And a lot of the stuff you were saying was resonating with me, that I can, work on this and I can change and I can, and what marriage cancer is, and that there's roots of it was just like, okay, so this was the problem. I was always dealing with the symptoms. I was attacking the symptoms instead of attacking the core issue. And then, like, as I joined the program, that changed the whole perspective, that attacking the core issue is working on myself. It was the energy I was bringing in, but I was completely lost. I didn't think there was a way out. There was a positive way out, and I really wanted to keep my family together, make it work. And I just thought that I tried everything, and this was like, there was no other way to move forward in life. It's all over.
What was going on in the relationship that made you feel it's all over and that your effort didn't mean anything?
Well, I was kind of realizing that there is no relationship. It was right before we were separated. My wife just has no interest in me. She just has a large ice wall around her heart. Like when you were saying that in the videos on YouTube, I was like, okay, that's what's going on. I didn't realize. I thought it was other things. I didn't realize it was coming from me, that I was the cause of that ice wall. It was all like my whole relationship. Like in my mind, everything I was doing was for the relationship. I would even feel guilty to go and chill with friends or do something. Or like I had like this tremendous battles going on inside with guilt, shame, insecurities, and everything else.
What would you tell guys who are going through some severe marriage problems, what we call marriage cancer, and they kind of suspect that they may be a part of the problem in the relationship, but they have a hard time letting go of the fact that maybe my wife could be making some changes too. Like when you say you're responsible for the ice wall, it's not like we were saying that everything that went wrong in the relationship is your fault. And I do want to be mindful of the fact, and guys should know this, it's a little bit of introduction. You're right now still separated. You've not gotten back together with your wife. There has been some improved communication. What we're really doing is a video interview in the middle of the journey. You're being mindful of the fact that one day your wife might see this video when we're actually get back together. So you don't want to say anything which would have a negative impact or do anything to reverse your relationship. So I want to respect that, acknowledge it, and help guys understand this is about changing the husband, the man, the father, like you said, making your own best version. What would you say to guys who say, well, yeah, it could change some stuff, but at the end of the day, she has to make some changes in order to make this work? What would you say to them in terms of how you have handled that challenge early on or ongoing challenge?
So the thing is, I never really wanted to change my wife. I always wanted to have a natural, loving, warm relationship, right? Because like, my parents, my grandparents, they come from the former Soviet Union, right? Over there, like relationship, there's like, this is the man, this is the woman, you're in this box, you're playing this role, and that's it. There's no like, if like over there, like domestic violence is like normal. It's like, it's part of the culture. Like, know your place. That always bothered me because it's not what I wanted. I wanted the person that I fell in love with. That's the person I want to see. I don't want it to be forced or manipulated or coerced or anything, because that's not a real relationship, right? It's built on fear. It's not deep. It's not intimate. It's not like a real thing. So I never really wanted to change her. But what bothered me the most was sometimes I would have a lot of thoughts of like, oh, she needs to change. She needs to this. She needs to that. But I was always trying to figure out, what am I not doing right? Because at a certain point, I got the switch. Initially, I was like, oh, I have to do more to just accept my love in a way that she could understand. I just didn't realize how much is behind the scenes of things that I just didn't understand before, that I just, through the program, I learned. But I guess to go back to your question, in reality, the only person we could actually change is ourselves, right? We can't change anyone else. That's number one, right? That's not something we can change someone. Number two, don't want to make it a force like that. This is what you have to do, right? In the religious world, it's like you have to be like this and you have to do this, and everyone is put into these boxes and they're not bringing out their inner self. And part of my life that I loved the most was that inner part of her, that like beautiful light that shines through her soul, right? And I didn't want to cover that up by any box, or like society says you have to do this or you have to do that, or listen to this person or listen to that person, because that's the easy way out, and that's not real, and it's never going to last. It's not something I was looking for. And I always felt, I guess this is one of the things I'm working on is like, I always felt the problem was in me, that I wasn't like initially to fall in love. I didn't have to do anything. I was just myself. And then somewhere along the way, it changed. I felt like, what am I doing wrong that she doesn't feel how much I'm putting in to this relationship? Because she
It's a
didn't
big
feel.
one. That's a real big one.
Most guys love their wives and they want their wives to know how much they're doing for them. Most guys are working really hard to support their families in this economy, all these difficult things. They're really trying. They want to give love and get love back. That's literally all they want, without coercion, without manipulation. And they want it to be natural, right? They want it to flow. They want it to be positive. Most of the guys I know work really hard to support their families and make everyone happy and do everything else. And then they're like bumping into a wall that, 1 second, why is it not working out? Everything I'm doing, or everything that society says I'm doing, or the movies or the books or the stories or Disney says I'm doing, it's not working. I'm like buying gifts and I'm doing this and it's not making her happy. Or if it makes her happy, it makes her happy for a very short amount of time. Where's the real me? Why don't I feel accepted? Why don't I feel loved? Like, what's going on here? The easy way out is to just say, okay, we should go together. She should be told to do this and I'm going to do this. But that's all coming from a place of manipulation. And that's never going to be real love, right? It's forced love. And forced love is never, you can't force someone to love something, right? This is something like religion. It never worked. You can't force someone to love God. It's a journey you have to work on. You have to grow to. It's not like you can't force it. You can have someone wear the clothing, do the services, do whatever needs to be done in whatever religion, but you can't. Love is deep, it's intimate, it's on a much deeper level.
Right. Like when it comes to the mitzvah of loving Hashem, for example, there's no direct mitzvah to love Hashem. The mitzvah is to think about, like the Rambam says, to think about the greatness of Hashem and to do actions and thought processes that allow you to be grateful and see His power, see His love, see His kindness, which will then bring you to love. Similarly, over here, you can't directly, like you said, coerce somebody to love you, but you can do the things that will take out things that are in the way, gradually and incrementally and consistently. And I think it would be interesting to talk about that for guys to hear what was the beginning of your experience in actual AMFT program, like when we're actually working out. And I'm not talking about my free videos on YouTube and all that, which is great and helps a lot of guys as well. But in terms of when we're actually working together, going through the process, going through the program, what was your first aha moment where you were like, oh my God, look what I can see right now? Do you remember that?
I think it's hard to say. Like the week one of the program is a lot of taking in information. And I felt like everything in week one, I should have known day one going into marriage. It sounds so basic and so simple. In the years I was married, it was so far away. It was just not part of my reality, my understanding. And it's what is a man's role in a relationship? Now the culture is pulling us to these different people like Andrew Tate or this person or that. Everyone's like, you got to be like this. Everyone's trying, our culture in general, it's scary how much everyone's trying to be someone or something or get somewhere, right? Everyone thinks that happiness is going to be somewhere. And, going into it and seeing that, whoa, that's where I started getting the realization that it's all coming from inside. The videos, it's all the training. It's the sun and moon principle. It's the inner cat, like the inner cat blew my mind, like that type of things, like all these different things, doctor patient, that principle that you teach is like, 1 second, not all my wife's feelings are because of me. She's a separate person. Like, I guess in my mind, what happened in Healthy was I kind of merged us into one, where I stopped caring about myself and I stopped caring about her. All right. Cause I just stopped caring about myself and I kind of thought we won. And I think that the whole beauty is that we're two separate people with separate feelings and separate thoughts and separate energies. And how do we interact as two separates as one? That's where I kind of broke off, I think.
Would you mind to share a little bit specific about the inner cat, if you can recall? What was it about the inner cat? Just to give guys a glimpse in terms of you saying there's a lot of information and you just dropped a whole bunch of different things, like what you said over here, sun and moon, doctor, patient, inner cat is the easiest for guys to really start understanding. That's why I usually start from there. What was it about the inner cat that blew your mind? We got to understand this. The guys watching this, they may have never heard of this inner cat concept. It may be completely bizarre to them. And even guys who have heard me talk about it, it's still like, until they've actually come face to face with it, it's kind of theoretical, it's philosophical, whatever you want to say. It's a cute story. How would you share from somebody's perspective, how would you describe what it's like to come face to face with your inner cat? What is it like being Chaim, going through the process, getting all the information, following the assignments, and then gradually seeing, oh, that's what it is. What was that experience like?
Well, to tell you the truth, it was actually now looking back, it was a very freeing experience because I just didn't understand myself really well. Right. Intercat helped me realize what's going on in my inner world, that I have two aspects to my personality. Right. And then there's this inner side of what's going on. And then there's this defense mechanism, which we call inner cat, which comes out to impulses, which reacts automatically. We call it our subconscious, whatever we want to call it, right? Whatever label we want to give it. Realizing that there's two sides to who I am, and that there was this inner cat that was trying to protect me and defend me and control me was destroying my life, right? Because I wasn't living my real life. And on top of it all, it helped me like realize that, understand my fears, like where they were coming from, how to deal with them. Like in therapy, I figured out I have traumas and I have fears and I have insecurities, but what do I do with them? Right? Understanding the inner cat is like, okay, this is how they come up. This is what they do. This is how they react. This is where you can first pay attention. Okay, that happened. Oh, that's my inner cat. And then slowly zoom out and take ownership of my life and who I am. The most fascinating thing was how this helped me with Yiddishkeit, Judaism, my religion, because I didn't realize how important emotions are in religion. I thought it was like my whole life in general was this thing happening outside of me. And then there was this inner me, which was afraid and inside, trying to figure out life and going somewhere and running, working, doing this, doing that, trying to do this, trying to do that, getting somewhere. And then I realized, oh, there's this inner cat. And the more I started realizing that there was two sides to me, there's my inner cat and then there's me. This inner cat's trying to control me and defend me, but by doing that, it's destroying my life. I was able to detach and be more comfortable living in the moment and realize that in the moment I can control. I can control my impulses. I can control my reactions. I can see what's going on. I see what's happening. Okay, this impulse triggered me, right? We talk about triggers, safe spaces. Oh, this is triggering. This is my safe space. But how could you go into a place where you're triggered and just be comfortable and not let that trigger bother you anymore? Because it's just a childish fear that, brought up in my mind, right? How do I live life without being in fear? And living without fear is one of the greatest things. I'm in a war zone now. I'm feeling zero fear. It's amazing.
You're just so people know, you're in Ukraine right now at the time of this recording. So you're not just saying war zone in terms of your marriage. You're saying war zone in terms of where you're actually living.
Yeah, and it's just, like threats, everything else. I grew up with a lot of bullying and a lot of other difficulties, and all those things cause this inner cat to come out and just always react. It's like most of my life was reacting to people, not saying my real thoughts, not being my real self. I had this tremendous fear of doing that. Going through, it was both the inner cat and really the higher identity. That the higher identity was, I think, the biggest goal for me on top of like the inner cat and higher identity together, like realizing, okay, 1 second, let's stop for a second from running somewhere, doing something, trying to be someone, get somewhere, fill this huge hole I had in me. Wait. First, let's figure out where do you want to go, and then figuring out how to get there. And that, like figuring out how to be my higher identity, the best version of myself. So that's the thing. Once I realized, okay, this is my inner cat, this is my higher identity, which I can grow into, and this is how I do it. And that's what I loved about this experience. So the knowledge I get was tremendous, but the more painful and difficult part is internalizing it and working on it and growing with it. The knowledge is like this program. It's a great program. If you're just doing it to do it, it's one thing. But if you're going in at full force to really try to be the best version of yourself and really try to fix your marriage and really try to be happy and be wholesome, not have a hole, and deal with the insecurities, shame, fear, guilt, or whatever is holding anyone down. There's only one way, and it's a lot of hard work, and it's going up. And this whole package created in a way to help guide you. The first week is just opening up my mind and saying, 1 second, it's like, oh, there's a lot more out there. First of all, let's give the ego a chill. There's a lot more out there which you didn't understand, you didn't realize, and it's in a very simple things, explained in a very simple way, which is mind blowing. I even go back now sometimes to rewatch it, just to get more insight and get more depth. It's amazing. It's like learning a new chiddush in the Torah. It's beautiful to see.
Relearning the same piece, suddenly you see the same Rashi, but there was
so much depth to it. The beauty is stuff that I heard of, but I just couldn't piece 1 and 2 and 3 together. Right? I knew 1 and I knew 2 and I knew 3, but they weren't in order and they weren't pieced together. And just explaining it in a flow. Like week 1 is just opening up the mind and saying, 1 second, this is here, this is there, this is how a man's supposed to be, this is the energy, this is the understanding, and it's like, oh. 1 second. And then slowly, as you go through, you're like, whoa, so I wasn't doing this. And after week 1, it's very difficult to come back and say, 1 second, it's all her fault. Whoever says that can't say that after week one. You know what I mean?
If that
Before the
happens, then I
program,
made a big, huge mistake by letting the guy into the program. That means the guy's completely out some in the ozone and has not been processing what we're actually teaching. A lot of guys ask me, is the inner cat the inner child? No, it's not. Inner child is therapy. Inner cat is into our process of seeing exactly what's getting in the way of your best interest, the exact part of your personality, and what you have to do about it. The process is not just about, oh, that's why I am this way because my parents were this way and my school and the bullying, but it's also about, okay, this is what you're being seen as when you do this. Your wife sees this when you don't even, it's not even about what you do. It's about who you are. You can walk into the room, your wife will feel a certain something that you're not aware of. You have to first be aware before making any changes, before getting into what do I say to her, which we'll get to soon. But before we get into what do I say to her, we have to understand what is it about me that she sees that screams so loud, even when I don't say anything, even when I don't say a word. And I walk into a room, there's an energy, there's a subconscious energy